I'm going to teach you how to make a really easy vegetable noodle soup with a few ingredients that you probably have in your fridge already. It takes about 20 minutes or so to make. I'll walk you through the ingredients first. So I've got a few leftover veggies from some other stuff that I'm using in this veggie noodle soup, which, like I said, makes it a fun, versatile soup because you can kind of use whatever you have left over. For instance, broccoli is left over from I made stir fry with this. Using some tomato basil paste, this stuff is pretty good. It's always fun to amp up a soup. Olive oil, using some veggie broth. You can use whatever kind of broth you'd like. I'm using these ditalini noodles just because I thought it looks kind of fun. I don't have elbow noodles, which I would probably usually use. I got this, my wife just told me it's called Dino Kale. It was called something else at the store, but I like calling it Dino Kale. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's so big. It kind of looks Jurassic. Maybe. We're going to use kale for our leafy greens. You can use spinach, Swiss chard, whatever you got. Whatever looks good at your store. Salt, cracked pepper. I'm using a little dry thyme. If you have fresh thyme, definitely opt in for that. I just don't have any. Using some fresh parsley. Using a yellow onion. You can use whatever kind of onion you want. Using some fresh garlic. You can use some shallot in the veggie soup. That's always really good. I kind of wish I had shallots, but I don't at this time. I'm going to use about a half of a large carrot, pretty medium-sized celery stick, and half of a red pepper. It's kind of cool, veggie soup. You can make it as colorful as you'd like, right? Lots of greens, obviously. Peppers are something fun to give it some color. Use orange, yellow, whatever. I'm also going to add in some cannellini beans for some added fiber and protein and for the taste. I love putting beans in soup. You can use whatever kind of beans you want, but it's always just something fun to add in that spruces it up. We're basically going to chop up all of our veggies. We're going to heat up our pot, throw in some olive oil. We're going to saute the cut up veggies. We're going to season them up nicely. We're going to add in some tomato paste for the flavor. Then we're going to add in our veggie broth for the liquid. Then once that's all cooking down for a little while, kind of marinating in itself, then we're going to throw in our pasta for about 10 minutes or so. Once that's cooked, we're going to be good to go. We're going to cut up our onion first. You can really cut it up any way you'd like to. I'm going to chop both ends off and I'm going to slice it down this way. Slice it relatively thin, but nothing too crazy. Celery, we're going to cut this a little smaller. I'm thinking we'll cut it down the middle a couple times. So this is going to make a little bit of a smaller dice for us. So we cut our celery into 4 different strips basically, and we're going to make a nice even dice on it. Don't use too much celery in a soup because celery can be a very overwhelming flavor. It's important when you're cutting a carrot to make a nice little base for it. How we're going to do that, we're going to make a nice flat surface on one side, so when we cut it, it's nice and stable. 1/4-inch planks, then we're going to cut 1/4-inch French fries basically. Then we're going to shift them and we're going to make 1/4-inch squares. For the pepper, we'll do a 1/4-inch dice as well. For our garlic, we're just going to make it easy. We're just going to make little slices. If you want, you can chop it up. You can mince it up if you'd like as well, just depending how strong or weak you'd like the garlic flavor to be. Our parsley, we're just going to chop up, just a rough chop to it. For our kale, we're just going to do a rough chop too. Make them kind of chunky though, maybe about a 1/2 inch or so. All right, so we got all of our mise en place ready to go. We're going to start with our main 3, our mirepoix, which is our onion, celery, and carrot. Typically it's about similar ratio to each to make a mirepoix, which is the core of most soups. I always like to do a little more onion because I love onion, and I usually do a little less celery because I don't like celery as much. So mess around with it, experiment, see what you like. Add a little oil into the pot. First we're going to throw in our mirepoix, starting with our onions, followed by our celery and carrots. We're also going to season this up with some salt, pepper, thyme, and a little tomato paste once they get cooked down a little bit, because this is going to be the core of our entire flavor. Now we're going to hit it with a little tomato paste. Make sure that tomato paste really mixes around well and everything. We're going to let this cook down for 2 to 3 minutes or so. After these veggies are cooked down a bit, you can see the onions are getting nice and translucent. Starting to caramelize a little even. We're going to throw in our peppers and our broccoli next. Now to be completely honest, I probably could have used a little bigger of a pot. Hit it with a little more seasoning. We're going to throw in our garlic and parsley next. Now it's really gonna start smelling good in here and making me very hungry. All right, this is way more veggies than I anticipated. I grabbed the wrong pot, so I'm gonna make the switch. So we're gonna let this pot heat up a little, and then we're gonna transfer these cooked veggies into this one, and we're gonna continue the soup in here. This is the fun part about cooking though. It doesn't have to be an exact science, you know? I use too small of a pot to start. I'm just gonna get a bigger pot and continue from there, no big deal. And we're gonna add our veggies into this pot. And just like that, we're back in business. Next, we're gonna go ahead and add in our beans. Cannellini beans, absolutely delicious. Don't sleep on them. Hit them with a little pepper. Oh yeah, this is looking good. Next, add in our veggie broth. You want to add a good amount in. Probably going to use whatever I have left in here, honestly. Now we're going to throw in a little bit of water too, since I ran out of veggie stock. Remember, as long as you season up your veggies a ton, like I did, you can throw in water without diluting the flavor too much. So keep that in mind, right? I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning of the video. But if you don't have a ton of veggie stock, which is really well flavored water, basically think of it that way, you can add in water towards the end if you don't have enough. We're gonna let this heat up to a strong simmer before we throw in our noodles. Noodles will probably take about 10 to 12 minutes or so. Once your soup's at a strong simmer, which is 185 or a little above, we're gonna toss in some noodles. Keep in mind, don't do too many noodles, otherwise the noodles are gonna act like a super sponge, soak up all the liquid, and then you're gonna be eating noodles with a side of veggies. If you mess it up, just add in more water and season it up some more and you'll be all right too. No big deal. I've dropped a ton of salt in a soup before. Really cool trick. Throw some raw potatoes in, and the potatoes act as a sponge. They absorb the salt. It pulls it out of it. Once our noodles are pretty much cooked, we're gonna throw in our dinosaur kale. Leafy greens really don't take long at all to cook, so we're gonna turn off the heat. We're gonna stir them up a little, and they'll be cooked very quick. Some people will look at this and say, what the hell? There's like no broth, there's no liquid in it. I love my soup hearty like this. If you don't, just add more broth or water, you know, as long as you season it up, remember. But I like my soup like this. This is delicious. Now for the most fun part, we get to try our soup. All these nice colors in here. It'd be even nicer if I put in some yellow peppers, actually. That'd make it pop a little more. It's really good. It's cold out today too, so I feel like soup hits extra hard when it's cold out, obviously. Very tasty. Now, soup works really good as a meal prep, but in particular with noodle soups, especially mine, how hearty it is, these noodles are really gonna work overtime, absorbing all the liquid in here. So when you go to heat it up, after it sits in the fridge for a while, make sure to add some hot water in or some broth. Broth would be preferable before you heat it back up, so it's more soupy. Otherwise, it's gonna just be like a bunch of noodles and veggies and a little bit of broth to it. Especially the way I make mine so hearty. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you actually make any of these recipes, let me know in the comments. I'm very curious. I don't know if any of you just watch to watch, which is cool too, but if you make these recipes, let me know how you make them better. I'm always learning as a cook, so help me out, you know? Teach me a trick or two. I'd love to learn from you.